Have you ever wondered why two people can both be 70 years old, yet one is traveling, gardening, and playing with grandchildren, while the other struggles to get out of a chair? The answer usually isn't hidden in wrinkles, gray hair, or even a medical diagnosis. It's hidden in 5 everyday abilities that most people quietly lose after the age of 60, long before they'd ever call themselves old. Here's what's unsettling about that. Researchers who have followed older adults for years keep landing on the same finding. It's not the big medical events that predict who stays independent and who doesn't. It's whether these 5 ordinary abilities are still intact. People rarely notice them slipping, because none of them feel like a health problem in the moment. They just feel like having a slower day. So the people who really are beating aging, the ones without a miracle pill or an expensive routine, usually aren't doing anything exotic. They've simply held on to these 5 abilities. Most people stop paying attention to somewhere in their 60s. Losing independence rarely happens all at once. It happens through changes, small enough to explain away, a little more hesitation on the stairs, a pause before standing up, a walk that takes a few minutes longer than it used to. Most people file that under getting older and move on. But what if those small moments are actually the body's earliest warning system, flashing long before anything shows up on a chart at the doctor's office? That's the part doctors have known for a while, and most patients haven't. The body tends to whisper before it shouts, long before a major diagnosis. Everyday movement often tells the story first, because it depends on your muscles, heart, lungs, brain, and joints, all quietly cooperating at once. When one of them starts to slip, movement is often where it shows up first. As we go through today's 5 abilities, keep score for yourself, but don't compare yourself to 30. Compare yourself to 1 or 2 years ago. Can you still do this as easily as you could back then? That single question will tell you more than any of the 5 will tell you on their own. And if 1 or 2 have gotten harder, that's not a verdict. It's information. And the earlier you have it, the more you can do with it. Here's what surprised the researchers who study this most. The first ability on the list isn't about lifting something heavy, running a mile, or passing a medical test. It's something you've almost certainly already done today, without giving it a second thought. What it quietly reveals about your next 10, 20, even 30 years has taken scientists years to fully understand. Let's start with ability number 1. The first ability is your walking speed. It sounds too ordinary to matter, but a lot of doctors treat it as one of the clearest single readouts of how well the body is holding up. Not a sprint, not a power walk, just the pace you naturally fall into, crossing a parking lot, or walking down a hallway, without thinking about it. Here's why it matters more than it seems. Every step is a coordination test. Your body runs without asking permission. Your heart has to pump enough blood. Your lungs have to keep up with oxygen demand. Your muscles have to generate force. Your joints have to move freely. And your brain has to time and balance the whole thing. When any one of those systems starts to weaken, walking speed is often where it shows up first. Before you'd notice anything else was wrong. That's not a guess. It's one of the most studied numbers in aging research. Large long-term studies, following older adults for a decade or more, have repeatedly found the same pattern. The people whose walking pace stays steady over the years are also the ones who stay out of hospitals longer, keep their independence longer, and on average, live longer than those whose pace quietly drops. Walking speed doesn't cause any of that by itself. It's simply one of the most honest mirrors the body has. Think of someone you know who's never been diagnosed with anything serious, yet over the last year or 2 has started walking a step behind everyone else, letting others go first, or scouting for the nearest bench. The moment you're out somewhere together, it's easy to write that off as just getting older. But it may be the opposite of random. It may be the clearest signal they've given in years, that something in the system needs attention, long before it becomes obvious anywhere else. A quick gut check. Do people you're with regularly end up waiting for you to catch up? Have you started steering away from places that involve a lot of walking? Not because you don't want to go, but because you know it'll wear you out? If that's changed in the last year or 2, it's worth paying attention. Not because you're getting older, but because something in the system may be asking for input. The reassuring part is that walking speed responds fast, and it doesn't take much. You don't need a gym membership. A daily walk, with short 20 to 30-second bursts of a slightly faster pace, then easing back down, is enough to put real demand on your heart, lungs, and leg muscles. Most people notice a difference within weeks, not years. The goal was never to walk faster for its own sake. It's to keep your body capable of the things you actually want to keep doing. Travel, chasing grandkids, moving through your own house, without thinking twice. But walking speed, for all it tells us, isn't the ability that catches people most off guard. There are people who walk perfectly well and still fail the next test completely. It has nothing to do with their legs. Let's find out if you still have ability number 2. The second ability is grip strength. And while it only measures your hands, researchers have found it reflects something much bigger. In fact, some of the largest health studies ever conducted on aging use a simple hand grip test as a stand-in for whole body strength, because it turns out to be one of the fastest and cheapest ways to estimate it. Think about the last few days. Have you struggled to open a jar? Found a laundry basket? Feeling heavier than it should? Or reached down to help a grandchild up, only to realize your hand doesn't hold as firmly as it used to? Most people blame stiff hands or just getting older, but in many cases, the hands aren't the real story. They're the messenger. As overall muscle strength declines with age, grip is often one of the first places where it becomes noticeable because you use your hands constantly enough to actually feel the change. Muscle mass naturally declines with age, and that decline speeds up after 60. If it isn't regularly challenged, the real problem isn't smaller muscles on their own. It's losing strength you were quietly relying on every day, without ever realizing you depended on it. By the time ordinary tasks start feeling difficult, the loss is usually already affecting more than just the hands. Here's the part that gets researchers' attention. In some of the largest population studies, tracking older adults over many years, grip strength has come out as one of the strongest predictors measured. In some cases, outperforming blood pressure as an indicator of future health risk. That doesn't mean a weaker grip guarantees a bad outcome. It means your muscles may be trying to tell you something. Years before daily life forces the conversation. Picture a grandfather sitting on the floor, playing with his granddaughter. When it's time to get up, he reaches to help her stand and realizes he can't hold her hand firmly enough to actually support her. It's over in a second. Barely worth mentioning out loud, but it's exactly the kind of quiet moment where people first notice that life isn't quite as effortless as it used to be. The good news: muscle responds to use at almost any age, and grip strength happens to be one of the easiest abilities to rebuild. Resistance bands, a firm stress ball, worked for a few minutes each day, or simply carrying a bit more weight than you're used to a few times a week, all of it sends the signal your muscles need to stay engaged. You're not training for a competition. You just need enough strength to keep doing what makes you independent. Doctors have a name for the cushion this builds: physiological reserve, your body's ability to absorb the unexpected. Think of it like savings in the bank. Illness, surgery, even a bad flu. A body with more reserve recovers faster and more fully, while a body running on empty has far less to draw from. That gap tends to widen with every decade. You don't actively defend it. So here's one honest question. Is there something you now hand off to someone else? A jar, a bag, or a task that a year or two ago you would have done yourself without thinking? If the answer is yes, that's not proof of anything final. It's simply your muscles asking for attention while there's still plenty of time to answer. And here's what's strange. You can have a strong walking pace and a solid grip, yet still completely miss the next ability because it's testing something neither of the first two touch. Some people don't realize it's fading until one flight of stairs leaves them unexpectedly out of breath. What that next ability reveals has quietly reshaped how researchers think about healthy aging. Let's see. If you still have ability number 3, the third ability disappears in millions of adults before they ever notice it's happening. At first, it looks harmless. You get tired a little sooner, take a few more breaks. Walk a little less than you used to, but over months and years, this one ability can quietly shrink your entire world. It's heart and lung endurance. Your body's ability to keep your muscles supplied with oxygen when you actually need them. Every set of stairs, every trip carrying groceries in from the car, every afternoon spent gardening or chasing grandkids around the yard. Your heart and lungs are running the show in the background the whole time. When they're working well, you never think about them. When they start losing efficiency, ordinary activities that used to be automatic can suddenly leave you winded and wiped out. This isn't just a fitness stat. It's one of the more consistent findings in aging research. Studies that track cardiorespiratory fitness alongside mortality have found the gap in health outcomes between the least fit and the most fit older adults is often larger than the gap tied to smoking or high blood pressure. Endurance isn't just about being able to run. It's about how much energy is left over for actually living your life. Here's what makes this ability sneaky. It rarely disappears in one dramatic moment. Instead, it talks you into doing less. You skip the evening walk because you're tired. You take the elevator just this once. You park a little closer to the entrance. None of those choices feels significant on its own, but string enough of them together, and your body quietly recalibrates to a smaller version of what it used to handle. Picture a family trip you've been looking forward to for months. A park to explore, a museum to wander through. Instead of feeling excited, you catch yourself doing the math. How far is the walk? Is there somewhere to sit? Will I be able to keep up? Halfway through the day, everyone else is still going strong while you're scanning for the next bench, quietly hoping nobody notices. You're the reason the group turns back early. Here's an honest gut check. Can you hold a conversation while walking at a normal pace? Or does talking and walking at the same time leave you out of breath? If that's changed in the past year or two, it's not proof of anything, but it's worth listening to. The reassuring part is that endurance responds faster than almost any other ability. On this list, a brisk daily walk, some laps in a pool, or a bike ride a few times a week is often enough to start rebuilding it. Most people notice a real difference within a few weeks of staying consistent, not months. What endurance actually buys you isn't just energy, it buys you options. Saying yes to the trip, the hike, the day out, instead of quietly managing your body's limits from the sidelines. But here's the part that surprises people most. You can have excellent endurance and still be one wrong step away from losing everything because the next ability doesn't care how good your heart and lungs are. It can be lost in a single unguarded second. And for a lot of older adults, that second becomes the real turning point. Let's talk about ability number 4. The fourth ability can vanish in a single unexpected moment. And when it does, life can change faster than almost anything else on this list. We're talking about balance. It doesn't get the same attention as strength or endurance, but losing it for even half a second can carry consequences that last for years. It's one reason fall prevention researchers consider balance one of the highest leverage things. You can train after 60. Balance was never really about standing still. Every time you cross a room, step off a curb, or turn quickly toward someone calling your name, your body is running hundreds of micro-corrections every minute. Your eyes, inner ear, muscles, and brain all negotiating in real time. When that coordination starts to slip, your body usually gives you signals. Long before an actual fall happens, those signals are easy to miss because they look like caution, not decline. Gripping the railing a little tighter, reaching for the counter while putting on shoes, hesitating before crossing wet grass. Most people chalk it up to just being careful. Sometimes it is, But sometimes it's the first evidence. That balance isn't as dependable as it used to be, and it's worth noticing which one it is for you. It's a bigger deal than most people assume. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related hospital visits. Among adults over 65, and roughly a quarter of older adults, experience at least one fall every year. Most of them never see it coming. Picture a grandmother walking through the park, holding her grandson's hand. She catches an uneven edge in the sidewalk, loses her footing for a second, and instinctively lets go of his hand. To catch herself, no one gets hurt. But something shifts after that. She stops walking with him alone. She starts turning down outings she used to look forward to, not because her body can't handle it, but because her confidence didn't heal as fast as the bruise did. That's the part people underestimate about losing balance. It's rarely the fall itself that changes a life. It's the fear that moves in afterward. Once someone becomes afraid of falling, they move less, trust their body less, and start leaning on other people for things they used to do without a second thought. That quiet retreat can cost more independence than the fall ever did. The good news is that balance is trainable at almost any age. One leg stands near a sturdy chair. Tai Chi, or simple leg and hip strengthening exercises, can retrain your body's stability in a matter of weeks. This isn't an hours-a-day commitment. A few focused minutes, several times a week, is genuinely enough. Try this safely right now if you'd like. Stand next to a countertop or a sturdy chair. Lift one foot slightly off the ground and see how long you can hold it without needing to grab on. Don't compare the number to anyone else's. Compare it to your own number. Next month, balance was never about becoming fearless. It's about your body proving to you, in the moments that matter, that it can still respond. So you keep saying yes to the walk, the trip, the afternoon with the grandkids, instead of quietly opting out. Here's where this gets interesting. Someone can have solid balance, decent strength, and real endurance, yet still completely fail the next test. Because it doesn't test any one system on its own, it tests all of them at once, in a few seconds. With no equipment involved, let's see if you'd pass ability number 5. The fifth and final ability is getting up off the floor. Without using your hands or anything to brace against, it sounds almost too simple to matter. But a surprising number of healthy-looking older adults are stunned by how hard this actually is. The first time they try it, quick safety note before anything else. If you have significant joint issues, osteoporosis, a recent surgery, or existing balance problems, don't attempt this test on your own. This is information, not a challenge worth risking an injury over. So why does one movement carry so much weight? Because standing up from the floor requires strength, balance, flexibility, and coordination to work together at the same moment, not one after another, all at once. It's less a fitness test and more a rehearsal for the exact situation you hope never happens, but should still be ready for. There's actually a well-known study behind this. Researchers tracking adults over 50 scored how many points of support, hands, knees, or a nearby chair, people needed to sit down and stand back up off the floor. The people who could do it, with little or no support, lived measurably longer on average than those who needed a lot of help getting up. It's a strange thing for a floor test to predict, but the pattern held up. Picture sitting on the floor, playing with a grandchild, or reaching under the couch for something that rolled out of sight. When it's time to get up, you realize you can't, not without crawling to furniture or calling for help. The physical part is almost the smaller issue. The bigger one is the thought that follows. What if this happens? When no one's around? That's exactly why this ability gets so much attention from researchers. It isn't really testing whether you can get off the floor. It's testing whether your body still has enough functional reserve to recover when life doesn't go according to plan. And after 60, that particular kind of reserve becomes more valuable every year. The encouraging part, this isn't fixed. Sit-to-stand practice, regular walking, and balance work can rebuild the strength. This movement depends on often faster than people expect. Sit in a sturdy chair. Stand without using your hands if it's safe to try. Then lower back down with control. It looks unremarkable, but it trains the exact muscles you rely on dozens of times a day without noticing. Imagine tripping at home, alone, and ending up on the floor uninjured, except your body won't cooperate. When you try to stand, a minute stretches into what feels like 10. While you search for something sturdy to pull yourself up on, that single scenario is the real argument for practicing this now, while it's still just practice. That's really what all 5 abilities have been about. None of them are for showing off. They're the quiet, unglamorous skills that decide whether life keeps feeling wide open or starts closing in one small accommodation at a time. Here's the most important thing left to say, and it's the part most people get wrong. The real danger with aging isn't losing these abilities, it's believing that once they're gone for good. That belief is often just flat out wrong, and I want to leave you with exactly why and what to do with that information. Starting today, age was never really the number of birthdays behind you. It's the abilities you lose. Without noticing you're losing them, if there's one thing worth carrying out of today's video, it's this. Everything we covered is really one thing. Wearing 5 different disguises. Your independence, walking confidently, carrying what you need, keeping pace with the people you love, staying steady on your feet, and getting back up when life knocks you down. Those 5 things decide how freely you actually live, regardless of what your driver's license says. Here's the part worth holding on to. Where you are today doesn't decide where you end up. Plenty of people assume that once one of these starts fading, that's just how it is now. In most cases, that's not true. The body keeps responding to movement and consistent habits far longer and far more readily than most people expect. The earlier you start paying attention, the more room you have to work with. So before you go, of the 5 we covered, which one needs your attention first? Walking speed, grip strength, endurance, balance, or getting up off the floor? Drop the number in the comments, 1 through 5. I read them, and it genuinely helps to see which one people are working on. It might even encourage someone else reading the comments to start too. If staying capable matters more to you than just getting older, subscribe. Every week, we dig into research-backed ways to stay stronger and more independent without the fluff. Before you leave, I have 2 more videos that I think you'll find valuable. The first one is, this one post-meal move lowers blood sugar by 52%. Every ability we discussed today runs on stable energy, and blood sugar plays a bigger role than most people realize. This one simple habit after meals supports the exact systems we talked about today. The second video is, add this to water for smoother skin and fewer wrinkles after 60. It's not really just about skin. Hydration and the right nutrients help support tissue and muscle recovery from the inside. Another small habit, connected to everything we covered today. Pick whichever video you're more curious about. Protecting the next 20 years usually starts with one small step. I'll see you there.